Andre, if I may,
Please.
you touched a little bit about outsourcing certain functions.
Yes.
I'm not against and I'm not in favor, because it all depends on, as you rightly said, on the culture of these functions. And
Yes.
culture is extremely important. However, when an organization outsource some of the functions, including the credit function, that organization should make sure that, first of all, it does not affect the customer relationship. Because very often,
No way.
very often I experience some companies who outsource part of the credit function, the collection function. And unfortunately, the company would then lose contact or some of the contact with the customer. So that is important to take it on board. And before you outsource, you make sure that your relationship with your customer will still be maintained. Secondly, when you outsource, you have to be careful and do some maths, because sometimes it may not be economically viable. However, if you don't have the resources, the appropriate resources, and going to Tim Lane's suggestion here, I know that Tim is always encouraging us to continue our studies, and rightly so. And well done, Tim, keep it up. If you don't have these people who are competent, who are skilled enough to manage these functions, obviously the best way to do it is to outsource your functions or part of your functions. So it depends on, you have to do some homework before you outsource. So I'm not against or in favor. I'm just pointing these issues out, so that before you outsource, you make sure that your strategy or your tactic will be beneficial and will not turn out to be something which you lose business, because
absolutely,
you should think twice before you do that.
I got an answer to that, because I mean, you started, you already mentioned collection. In terms of outsourcing, as you remember, we need to properly distinguish customers and debtors. To me, collection from customers must be done by people who know them the best and who maintain relations. And only collection from debtors with whom we actually finalize relations could be outsourced. Because in very general terms, we could outsource specific tasks with a certain very specific level of service, but we could not outsource culture making or culture building, and we could not outsource decision making. They're supposed to stay internally as an extension of a company's strategy, company's culture, if you want. Therefore, job of credit analyst could be outsourced, but job of credit manager who maintains relations with customer, who speaks with customer, who understands their needs, supposed to stay internally and even given to salespeople from, sometimes in several things. Therefore, decision making and culture could not be and should not be outsourced by definition. Specific tasks could be given to somebody who can do it better or cheaper or whatever it is, whatever reason it is. But we are coming here.
Or in a better way.
Yeah, in a better way. We don't know. I mean, I used to be an outsourced, and we got cases where we do credit analysis. Yeah, for our companies. Just like given very, very simple example. The company has very limited number of headcount. and they got 25 customers. They won't have time, neither time nor resources to do proper credit analysis for 25 customers. Therefore, they need somebody to do that job, to make sure that, proper job of credit analyst is done. But decision making stays with the company. And what to do afterwards should stay with the company. And here we are coming to the interesting topic: what's the role of a credit manager? Because great credit function starts with the credit manager who is establishing credit culture, who leads that and who establishes all the standards. And having such a person, having such a in the heart of this organization, in the very center, who is leading that, we may afford outsourcing or not outsourcing elements of function. But if we don't have that culture internally, every move would be wrong. Because if we don't have strategy, if we don't have real system, every move could be wrong and deliver absolutely results contrasting with what is expected. Maybe Ludo would like to add something to that.
Well, I think most of the important arguments have been mentioned, but I still can imagine that in some cases outsourcing is possible. I mean, outsourcing means that indeed, as Joseph mentioned, you risk of losing the customer relation function that credit management has, right? And that customer relation is not only part of the credit manager as such, but also in the collection process should play a role. However, I can imagine that in some cases, when you have lots of very small customers, where this individual customer relation is not really important, and the efficiency of the collection process is the important part of it. And in that case, it could be justified. But in many other cases, I think there's a huge risk, and you must definitely be conscious of the fact that your credit culture, as we have mentioned it now, credit culture will not necessarily be respected when you start outsourcing it. Outsourcing credit culture is something that you can make sure that everybody within your own organization is aware of and is respecting. But that will be more difficult when it's someone who is very far away from you and very far away maybe also from your customers who is doing this part of the process. So in that case, let's say in cases where your credit culture and your corporate culture is not really a critical issue in the collection process, you could afford to outsource it. But as long as you really have customers with whom your relation should be maintained and should be good, then I think it may be much better to keep it in-house, to make sure that every customer contact reflects this credit culture and this respect for the customer and the kind of customer relation that you want to obtain.